pivot based on what direction the interview is going with the individual, and then you go from there. But it's different if I'm doing topic versus personality.
So, you know, obviously everybody comes to this particular job that we do with a set of values. What are your core values that you're bringing into the interviews that I think are the prism through which you view, you know, the person who you're interviewing? Where do those values come from?
So I've lived a very weird life. So for me, I'm less judgmental on the individual because I understand not everybody lives the same life. I lived in Iran 10 years, and my parents got divorced twice. My mom and dad were married. My sister's born. Then they get a divorce. Then they get remarried to each other. Then I'm born. Then they get divorced. That's my mom and dad. My mom's family, majority of them, they were all part of the Today Party in Iran, communist. And all about Karl Marx. A lot of these guys were people that maybe escaped Russia, and they came down, you know, to whether they escaped Russia or Leningrad or Baku or any of that, and they came down to Tehran, Iran, or Bandar Pahlavi back in the days. Rasht was a city that's in North Iran. It's close to the Caspian Sea, the best caviar in the world. And so they became communists. They've been communists because they kind of like the way Russia's system was. All these rich people, they're greedy. All they care about is money. We're about community. You don't have to work that hard.
Bitch ass nigga.
And on that side, there were Syrians, original Syrians. So I speak Aramaic, so I'm Syrian, but David, all of that. So they're more imperial. He was more about the Shah. He was more about the king. He was more about, you know, poor people are lazy. My mom was rich people are greedy. So they're debating each other constantly, right? And then I had some interesting characters in my family. Some made money in an interesting way, you know, bootlegging in Iran at that time. And one was a physicist who was a math guy, had an Einstein thing behind him, a painting behind him, and he had shotguns. And every time we'd come to his house, he's always reading these physics books, right? Everything about him was about math. So that had an influence. We were in place in Iran. We're living in the capital. We're being bombed on. One time 160-something times in a day. I went to an Armenian school, Rubengian, and you're hearing the whistling sound. So then we escape Iran. We go to Germany. 6 weeks after Khomeini dies in 89, it's like July 15th, we go to Germany, 89. We live at a refugee camp in Germany, in Erlangen for a year and a half, then we come to the States here. And when I come to the States here, I'm like, hey, I cannot believe this is how this life is, how great America is. And then I go to high school, then I joined the Army, and I grew up watching Mob, and I wanted to be a boxer.
It's got like 3 kilos and shit.
Godfather or Carlito's Way or, you know, Scarface, and sports, and we're talking about sports earlier with your interest in wanting to be a sports owner in the future. Very interesting. We'll be celebrating that with you, which was an interesting conversation to have. But people around me were always weird and different. So I was able to befriend the 4.5 GPA kid and the captain of the football team and the teacher who was an F, and a teacher who was a math teacher. We would have conversations, and the head coach and the counselor and the art tutor and the cops. It didn't matter. I had relationships with all these guys. And because there was no judgment, we can sit down and have conversations together. So my approach to the way we're doing interviews is people feel safer sitting down with us. Well, maybe they wouldn't feel safer. Like 1 week I'll have Cenk, and people are upset at me because I had Cenk. Next week I have Alex Jones. You know, 1 week I'll have Charlie Kirk. Oh my God, I can't believe you have Charlie Kirk. Next week I got Chris Como. We're okay doing that. That's very norm for us to have. I don't know where I stand. I'm a capitalist. I love America. This is the greatest country in the world. I'm a military guy, so you know where I stand with guns. You know, when it comes down to taxes, I have a very strong opinion on taxes, very strong opinion on family values, principles. You know, our incentive program right now on how, you know, people have kids, single mother, all this stuff. I have very strong philosophies of it. But in regards to the media, how we're building the media, the main basis is capitalism. And anything can be built on the main, you know, core values and principles that we have is capitalism. We believe you can go out there and build as big of a business or small of a business and make as much or as little money as you want to make, or you can be a supporter in the role of building Daily Wire. You can be a consultant, you can be an outsider, you can be a, you know, independent contractor, you can be an employee, you can be a get a piece of the company eventually, whether it's public or it sells, you get a check. There's so many ways in a capitalistic society to win. That's our core foundation, and obviously a bunch of different things comes with it.
So one of the big issues you've been talking about, because you talk so much about capitalism and business, is the infiltration of ESG into business. And this is something that I think took a lot of conservatives by surprise over the course of the last 10 years. There's this belief system at least when I was growing up, that there are certain institutions in society that lean left. The universities lean left, the media lean left, Hollywood lean left, obviously. When it came to corporate America, the idea was you were going to go into business and then you were going to deal with the real world where you had to pay taxes and you had to make payroll, and this was going to make you conservative. Now, for a lot of conservatives, it feels like that's not what corporate America is. Corporate America has basically engaged in corporatism where they're working hand in glove with members of the government in order to get special advantages, and then the other half of that deal is they have to promote left-wing viewpoints on everything from environmental to social. So, do you think the infiltration of
But the answer is they're not going to win. They're not going to win long term because people are starting to get exposed to it, and they're learning more about it, and even they're saying, hey, let me back off a little bit. You know, Larry thinks that ESG is being, it's being bullied a little bit, and people are not liking it. It's getting a black eye. And Elon Musk on the other end said the S stands for satanic, or even, Charlie Munger says, look, I love Larry Fink. I think he's a great guy, but I don't want Larry Fink as an emperor. I want him as a friend. I don't want him as an emperor. And Larry Fink kind of, BlackRock, what they're trying to build. So here's the part where I have a problem with it, is this guy, Larry, goes and majors.
Hey, my bad, teammate. My bad.
He wanted to get into politics. That's his major. But then he learns how to make money because he's a numbers guy as well. Then he makes money. He loses his first million.
He shot me in the back.
He's 36 years old. Then he comes back, learns a special skill. I think he teams up with Schwartzman. Eventually, they make money. At one point, they split because Schwartzman wanted to keep the whole company to themselves. Fink wanted to give equity. We'll go our separate ways. And Fink obviously turns BlackRock into a $10 trillion of asset under management. To put that in perspective, only U.S. and China have a big issue. 10 trillion is a lot of money. Now, 10 trillion is not their money, it's money they're managing. So it's institutional money. $1 million from here, 18 million from here, 48 million from here, 32 million from here. It's institutional, but they make the decision on what they do with your money. So then they choose, and you look across the board, the amount of needs that they have, whether it goes to, military. So you're talking about Raytheon, Boeing, General Dynamics, all these guys, where they are the top 3 to 4 shareholders of those companies through their institutional money. And in Hollywood, you go into so many different businesses. You look at 88%, I think it's 88% of S&P 500 companies, they're the top 3 shareholders in those companies. Imagine that kind of influence and control. So now, if you're doing that, what influence do you have? You better not put that guy there because we're not going to get more money from them. You better not do this. And then you add George Soros. Society Foundation. 38, 39-year-old son. And George Soros, last 30 years, he's given Open Society Foundation $32 billion is what he's given to them. Then they
for the motherfucker on my team that went 2-19, boy, kill your motherfucking self. Stupid ass dude. That shit ain't funny. That motherfucker, boy.
because our insurance company, when we